Ford stared thoughtfully at the monitor. His restaurant was only a month old, and there was no way yet to hire real security. Of course, he was well aware that employees could do damage, some more, some less. Very often people steal, different reasons for doing so. But he couldn't afford to let anything go wrong in his restaurant because of it. Ford had been raising money to open the restaurant for years. And now, when it was working out even better than he had planned, he watched his employee drag a big bag to the exit. And it had only been 3 days since he had set up the cameras. So she'd been dragging like this for a month. He stood up determinedly. Stealing had to be stopped at the root. Strange, of course. The girl is very young, and she doesn't look like she was. But she must have been very good at hiding her true face. In half an hour, the restaurant closes. The employee and the manager are the last to leave. By the way, the employee leaves through another door, which the receptionist then closes. Although that door can't be opened from outside. This is the explanation for why she is not aware. She just doesn't see the employee off. Everything works out so well for the employee. He's just in time. Ford lived literally 3 intersections away from his restaurant. By car, it took 5 minutes at all. He pulled up, turned off his headlights, and waited. Any minute now, the very employee was going to show up. Katie carefully adjusted her bonnet. So that was it. My girl behaved herself today. Be patient for a little while. Mama will come through now and take you out. Katie checked again. The homemade in the bag was uncovered. Emily was comfortable. Half an hour ago, Katie had fed her, so the baby would sleep soundly. She was well aware that this wasn't the way to do it, that if anyone found out, they would simply take her away from Katie. But there was no other way. Katie's milk was gone right away. The formula cost so much that the children's allowance was only enough for a couple of weeks, and there were also diapers and utilities. The girl didn't know what to do for a long time, and then she found out about a new restaurant opening and recruiting. When she came in for the interview, she didn't yet know how she would be able to perform her duties. She really wanted the job, but her roommate warned her that she would not be able to sit at Emily's more than twice a week. And for that, Katie would clean her house. When Katie saw the place where she would be working and realized that for now she would be the only dishwasher, a plan was born in her head. It was so unrealistic, so dangerous, that she ran out of words. And then she tried to make it happen. Emily was only a month old when she first came to work for her. The baby was so quiet that she lay quietly and slept in the back room, where there was a supply of dishes. There was plenty of light space there too, and Katie kept it clean. Katie had been without parents since childhood, living with her grandmother. Grandma was a romantic character. Things like everyday life didn't interest her at all. From the age of 10, Katie did all the housework herself. Hank won her over instantly. She didn't just fall in love, she went crazy. Grandmother was gone for a year, and the girl immediately offered Hank to live with her. He agreed, but as soon as he found out that Katie was pregnant, he disappeared in an unknown direction, taking all the valuable things that were in the apartment. Katie didn't go to the police. It was so embarrassing that she tried not to leave the house at all. She almost succeeded, and all would have been well if these people hadn't come to her. They wanted her to sell them the apartment. She wasn't going to sell anything, and they said she might be accidentally hit by a car in the street, and then her baby would be orphaned. That same day, the milk was completely gone. That's when Katie realized the real challenge was just beginning. The job was a lifesaver. They got paid every week, they didn't have to think about food, and they had enough for everything. And what would happen when Emily turned 3 or 4 months old? Katie tried not to think about it. She's strong, she's smart, she'll make it. Though lately she had doubted very much that she was strong and smart. Katie carefully set her bag down, closed the door, turned around, and found herself nose to nose with a restaurant owner. "Oh, ouch," he mocked her. "Show me what you're carrying in the bag." No restaurant could stand to steal that kind of volume. Katie blocked the bag with herself. "I've never stolen anything. Aren't you ashamed?" "Should I be ashamed?" "Not you, but me," he laughed. Then he got serious. "Show me what you're carrying in your bag, or I'll call the police." Katie sighed. There was nothing to do, especially since Emily had started rummaging around in her bag. She sat down, opened the bag, and Ford gasped. "What's with the baby? Is that yours? What, are you working with a baby?" Katie, meanwhile, pulled Emily into her arms. "Am I fired?" "Wait, what are you? You just... Let me give you a lift." "How far do you live?" "No, just around the corner." "Well, I'll take you there. Give me that damn bag already." Ford knew that Katie didn't carry such a baby to work for a living. He, too, had been through a very difficult life with alcoholic parents. If they hadn't taken him away from them, who knows, maybe he would have become like them. They reached the house, but Ford had no intention of backing down. He went up with Katie to the right floor, and when the girl looked at him expressively, he said, "I could use a cup of tea." Katie shrugged her shoulders. She didn't mind the tea. She couldn't really send her away. What if? Though no, he wouldn't let her work with the baby anyway. She quickly changed Emily's clothes and gave her a little formula, just to put her to sleep she'd only recently eaten. And then she went out into the kitchen, where Ford was already making tea. He looked at her cheerfully. "I've been doing a little housekeeping around here." Katie sat down and realized how tired she was. Not even physically, mentally. All this tension, will know, will not know, will not kick out, will not kick out. And she herself did not understand how she suddenly began to cry. "God, what am I going to do now?" Ford sat down across from her, moved her mug. "Well, now tell me." She looked at him in surprise. "Tell me what?" "Everything from the beginning. Born, schooled, and so on, in order." Katie began to talk, she told, occasionally sipping her tea. Talking and realizing how miserable she was. Everything about her is wrong. She's got it all wrong. And why? But she didn't know the answer. Ford didn't look at her while she was talking. He wanted to cry himself because he had experienced the injustice of life to the fullest. "So you stay home for a couple of days, and I'll call someone. And in 2 days, we're gonna have to figure something out." Well, I can't leave you in this situation, especially since you did the dishes well." "All right, I'll be going. Good night." He got up and left promptly. Katie didn't even have time to thank him. She sat a little longer and went to lock the door. There were several large bills on the nightstand in the hallway. Katie leaned against the wall and cried again. The next day, she still had to change one bill. Emily ran a fever. The doctor who was called and prescribed medicine and vitamins. The young mother had no choice but to make a quick run to the drugstore while Emily slept. Fortunately, all she had to do was get to the house next door. She had just closed the door behind her when the doorbell rang. Her heart pounded. She assumed it was the Ford. Katie took a quick glance in the mirror and swung the door open. Immediately she tried to close it, but was interrupted by the foot of a young man who smiled cheekily at her. "Well, hello, single mom. What are you so bad at welcoming guests?" He pushed her aside and entered the apartment. Together with him came another man and a girl. They sat at the table, and the girl began to arrange some papers on the table. "Well, what? Have you thought about it?" "I did. Get out of here, or I'll call the police." Well, call them. We'll take a look. But keep in mind, with the police you're signing your own sentence. think of the baby. Katie gasped with indignation. Who are you people? What do you want? I'm not selling any apartment. Yes, you are. It's just that every day you persist, your apartment is getting cheaper for you. So the sooner you agree, the more money you'll get. The young man named the amount, and Katie laughed, even though she was very scared. Are you kidding? That's the cost of the bathroom in this house. He smirked. And in a couple of days, you'll still agree, only you'll get even less. Get out. I'm not going to sell anything. He moved toward her. Katie squirmed, but then the young man jumped strangely and collapsed to the floor. Behind him stood the Ford. He turned to those at the table. Do I need to explain to anyone else that the apartment wasn't for sale? The guests quickly disappeared, and Ford turned to her. Why didn't you tell me anything about them? I didn't know they were coming again. Katie looked so scared. He felt his heart sink. So tender, so defenseless. Get ready. Where to? Where to? He barked so loudly that Katie immediately burst into tears. Sorry. You're coming to my place. I'm hardly ever home anyway. You'll be safer there for now. Who knows what the hell these pretzels will do? Katie obediently went to pack her things. 15 minutes later, they were leaving the apartment. A neighbor looked out on the landing. Katie, Daddy showed up, didn't he? What, I don't have to sit with Emily now? What, you're not going to come and clean up anymore? Ford smiled at her affectionately, very affectionately, grinning his snow-white teeth. That's right, it's marked. Now you'll have to clean up after yourself. The neighbor slammed the door. The man was a beast. Katie had the misfortune to get mixed up with such a man. But wasn't that the other one who'd gone to see her? She waved her hand. She waved a hand. You're too young these days. You'd better stay out of it. Emily gazed around the big apartment. It's beautiful here. It is now. You should have seen it when you bought it. It's just walls, all broken up, broken down. This will be your room, by the way. He opened the door. Katie noticed a man's robe and slippers. That's your room. Don't yell at me, not at work. It's big and warm, so you'll live here and I'll move into that one over there. He pointed to the door on the other side. It's kind of uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable sleeping on the ceiling. You make yourself comfortable. I won't be long. Ford went somewhere. Katie laid out her things, then went into the kitchen for a drink of water. There was a pile of dirty mugs in the sink. It looked like Ford only drank coffee at home. She rinsed the dishes, looked in the refrigerator. An hour later, cutlets were languishing on the stove, potatoes were simmering in the pot, and Katie was chopping salad, smiling at Emily, who was lying on the kitchen couch, propped up on pillows. The door slammed. A disheveled Ford strode into the kitchen. He blew his nose. I'm so hungry. Come on, quick. Katie grabbed Emily in her arms and followed him. There was a brand new crib and stroller in the hallway. And in the crib, there were a few more bags, apparently with clothes. Oh, what are you? I don't have that kind of money. I don't know when I can give it back. Ford smiled. Women are strange creatures. Who asked you to give? Even Emily, lying on the big bed, tried to mutter something in her language. During the night, Katie did not sleep, nor did Ford. Suddenly he realized that he felt so good right now. He was no longer alone in the house. Ford lifted himself up on his elbow. Well, it would be a while before Katie wanted to go back to his apartment, and he was well aware that he didn't want her to leave. At breakfast this morning, Ford suddenly said, "We're getting married." The knife fell out of Katie's hand and bounced to the floor. We have to get married. Emily needs a father, and you need protection. Katie looked at him with widened eyes. Ford put his fork away and looked at her. Well, what could he say to her? that he had fallen in love like a fool with a woman with a child who was washing dishes in his restaurant. He tried to find the right words, but suddenly Katie reached across the table and kissed him gently. It was like an electric shock to Ford. He jumped back and answered the phone. If you like the story, please support me with a thumbs up button. It's only one click for you, but for me it's very important. All the best to you.